In this episode, I'm going to speed build a piece of terrain for a friend, and this time I'm getting paid for it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. I'm DM Jim, and in this episode, I am going to be building a piece of terrain. It consists of a sort of semicircular staircase that rises to a doorway. The doorway needs to have a pocket in the back to hold an iPhone, and on the iPhone is going to be some sort of animation. A friend of mine asked me if I could build this for him, and he's willing to pay for it, but he doesn't have a lot of time. He gave me a couple days, and he gave me a rough sketch of what he's wanting, but I can do it. It's going to be consisting of 1/4-inch foam for the stairs that go up, and then I'll have to design a doorway with columns and things, and a place in back to slide down the iPhone. But I think I can do it. I've got a couple days in my workshop here, and this includes cutting, gluing, and painting, and all that. So let me see what I can do, and I think the first thing I'm going to get started with is a template for the staircase. I don't have a lot of time to make this, so I'm going to be cutting corners wherever I can. One of those is, normally when I cut foam, I like to measure everything out and cut the foam individually. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of chipboard to create a template for the shape of the rounded staircase. So this is, my compass here has a maximum radius of 5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curve at 5 inches, like that. I hope you can see that line. I want the staircase to be 3 inches wide. So I'm going to reduce this down to a 2-inch radius. All right, and I'm going to draw another arc, like that. Inner arc, outer arc. Now with chipboard, normally I would just cut this with a blade, but curves are kind of tricky anyway, and I don't have to go for an exact, it doesn't have to be perfect, line sharp. So I'm just going to cut this out with a pair of scissors. And because I'm going to be making duplicates of this using this same template, I'm not worried, the edge should pretty much match up. Now I'm going to cut out the center, like that. All right, this is going to be my staircase template. Because it's, approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches wide, or the radius is 5 inches, I'm probably only going to be able to squeeze out 4 sections. I'll do it at the 90 and then at the 45-degree mark. So now what I need to do is I need to mark the 45 and 90s on these. Those will be my staircase gradients right there. Now I'll make 2 sides. There's going to be one that sits here, one that sits over here, and then I'm going to have a longer pedestal height that will go in the middle. So now I need to cut out a whole bunch of these on the Proxxon. I'm just going to use some painter's tape here, and I'm going to tape the template to a piece of 1/4-inch foam, just enough to keep it on there. And I need to turn on the power. All right. Safety goggles, always. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow the line. And when it gets up against the chipboard, it actually gives you a little resistance. So you can just follow the chipboard. I would recommend cutting pieces away like that as you need them. There we go. Okay, I've got 3 pieces cut out. You'll notice I've marked one at the 45 degree and this one at the roughly 22.5 degree. My friend wanted the stairs to roughly be the gradient to go up to about 1 inch, which is in game terms that's 5 feet, which is very easy to do with 1/4 inch because it just means four of these. Turn that off. 4 of these sections. So there's the first gradient, there's the second gradient, and there's the 4th and final. And of course, when I glue them together, you know, I'll line them up. I'll do them flush on this edge. But there is one done. I cut all these, not counting, you know, the template took me, you know, a couple minutes. This took me about 5 minutes. So probably less than 1/4 of an hour. I will have both halves of the staircase done, and then I'll work on the centerpiece. Okay, there are the 2 halves of the staircase, as you can see. I had this piece left over. No, I had this piece left over from when I cut the original one. So I only had to cut for the second half. I cut this full one and another full one. Take this off, use this extra piece from the previous one, and that's what makes the final one. So I had to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 of these to make 2 staircases. I'm going to cut out the centerpiece there where the iPhone will sit. Once again, using the Proxxon, I'm going to use this width of the staircase along with the fence here on the Proxxon. This will help me judge the width of the base. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Actually, I'll use this side because this side's straight. Normally I would paint these up individually, each piece individually, and then glue them together. But I just don't, I'm worried about time, I'm worried about not finishing up for my friend. So I am going to just glue it up, let it dry, work on the iPhone holder, and then when the glue is dry, I'll come back and texture all this. Now I do have one good edge and one sort of ugly edge. So obviously this nice edge is going to go to the front. I've gone ahead and labeled the bottom of these and these with numbers, 1B, 2B, like that, so I know which set they go to. So I'm going to go ahead and glue 1B to 2B. This is an interesting thing. One of Jeremy's videos over at Black Craft Magic, he talked about the different types of foam. And he was quite surprised that some people, when they get the foam, it has this plastic sheet. I don't know if you can see the sheen of it, but this bottom piece does actually have it. See, I have to peel it off. And normally I wouldn't care, but it doesn't glue well. So you do have to peel it off, and the reason I left it on there was this reminded me that I wanted to show you. I've peeled it off all the other ones. But as you can see, it comes off pretty easy most of the time. Sometimes it comes off in strips, which is really annoying, and you just got to pick it off one at a time. Try to peel as much as you can right when you get it home, because when you leave it sitting out like I've done, I've noticed that the new stuff will peel quite quick, and the old stuff not so well. I'm staying away from the edges with the tacky glue, mainly because if I have to come back through with the Proxxon, I don't want to see any of the glue. I don't want to see any of the glue near the edge that I'm cutting. So I'll push that down. And again, you can see the back edge. If you can see that, it doesn't match up quite right. I'm more concerned with the front and the sides and I'll worry about the back edge later if I decide to do anything about it. What I can do is I can push this up against it and make sure it's flush along this edge, which it is. There we go. I'll leave that one there. I'm going to go ahead and glue this one up, and then I will start working on the iPhone holder. Using the Proxon and some measurements provided to me by my friend, I created a very simple little mock-up of his iPhone. And as you can see, I've drawn in the dimensions of the visible part of the screen that that will be playing whatever animation he's doing. I measured from the top and the bottom, the sides, and just drew a square. It's not 100% exact, but it's close enough that it'll help me sort of hem in the top and the edges and the bottom to make sure that none of the screen is obstructed. Now, interestingly enough, if you measure this bottom part right here, it's almost an inch, almost. Now, given that the stairs are an inch tall, this piece right here is an inch tall. If this is mounted on the back of it, you can see that it just touches the bottom, or just overlaps a section of the bottom of the screen. I don't want to obscure any part of the video. So what I'm going to have to do is raise this up slightly. So I will create something to hold the iPhone. The iPhone will slide down in it, but it'll only slide down so far so that the entire screen is not obstructed. But right now, the main goal is to build some sort of holder for the iPhone so that it slides down in there and holds it securely. So that's next. Using the template of the iPhone from chipboard, I cut out, this is 3 inches, almost a half inch, 3 inches, almost a half inch. I basically just cut out a shell, and then I also cut out the frame here. This is a little shorter than the actual iPhone, just a little bit. I'm probably going to actually cut a little shorter on the top so you'll be able to reach in and grab and pull the iPhone out rather than dump it out. But the idea here is that I'm going to glue this up. This will be the skeleton, the inner portion, and covered in some frame or some foam decoration. The idea is that the phone will slip in here. The screen will be visible here. And then there's a little bit of the phone up top. And again, I'm going to trim this a little more. It's just not enough to grab it. But the idea is that the screen will be visible, and this will give me a better idea of how I can decorate around this doorway or gateway. So right now I'm going to go ahead and glue this together. I want this to be strong, so I'm going to tape it up after I glue it and let it dry really, really well. All right, so there is, like I said, this is just the shell. This will not be visible from the outside, but it gives me something to glue foam to or to use as I create the decorations. This will slide in like that, and there you go. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're doing something like this, you'll need to get your own measurements for whatever phone, Android, iPhone, whatever you're using, and include the case, because it kind of gets to be a pain taking the phone out of a case, I imagine. So if the case is not too bulky or too big, just include those measurements like I've done here, and then you'll have something to slide the iPhone in and out of. All right, so I'm going to let this dry up, and meanwhile, I'll be thinking about how I am going to, first off, how I'm going to keep this vertical, how I'm going to mount it. The steps are not yet dry, okay, but I can at least use them sort of just to give you an idea. So there's the steps leading up to the pedestal, and then of course this is going to be back here. on the back. Now it's very possible, after looking at this, I may make this, instead of 3 by 3, I may make this a 3 by 5. Give me an extra inch on this side and an extra inch on this side, which would end up pushing it to look like that, which isn't too bad. That's not bad at all. It just so happens that this is 3 inches and this is 3 inches, and it just, no, I'd like to give myself some play room on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch this. I'm going to go ahead and make a decision right here on the video. I'm going to scratch that, and I'm going to cut a 3 by 5 inch wide or long piece here to give me an extra inch on each side. I'll do that now. I've set the width here, or this dimension, to 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut me a 5-inch wide piece here, and then I will move it to a 3-inch so that I can make a wider base for the gateway. All right, I'll cut one more of these, glue them together, and that will be my extended base. Here's a little update for you. As you can see, I've got things glued together. The staircases are glued to the base. On the bottom, I put on some chipboard, and this is just to give it more stability. This piece right here will sit flush against it. It does not have a base of chipboard yet. I'll add that so that it's flush with the back like that. But for right now, this was just to see if it would work. On the back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a half circle drawn in here, and then with the Proxxon, I'm going to cut it. But anyway, this is where things stand right now. I'm going to go ahead and start doing the texturing of the stairs while I ponder how I'm going to decorate the iPhone holder. Okay, the next step after I black bombed the staircase, I created this semicircular add-on. It's got the gap here where this piece will be glued in, inserted down like that. And I've added some detailing to match what I did on here. I gouged it a lot. I used aluminum foil to just rough up the edges and really dull everything. I want this thing to look really, really old. So while I'm letting this glue dry, now I need to decorate this piece. I've cut out this small front piece. I'm going to glue this on the front of the shell here. And don't worry, I'm going to round the corners and rough it up. It'll look a lot older than it is. But I need to get it glued on there, and once it's glued, then I can trim the sides and get them going. But this is going to be the starting point. You'll notice I'm starting about this distance up. That's because this part is what's inserted in the base. So go ahead and get this glued on. While that glue is drying, I'm going to go ahead and tackle painting the semicircular base that I glued onto the staircase. I'm going to cut another piece. This is the thin piece that I cut. I took a 1/2 inch and trimmed this front piece off. I'm going to take this back piece for here, and I'm going to use this as the template, obviously, to cut the size. I cut these thin pieces. I'm going to glue them here. I'm going to smear it a little bit. I'll go ahead and do this side. Okay, all the way to the top. Here's the other piece. I'll go flush with this. Obviously, I'll need to do some texturing to it, some brickwork, things like that. I have to figure out how I'm going to do the back. Just a quick little update for you here. So the glue is drying. You may notice I added some, I don't know what you'd call these things. They're just pillars on the sides here. And they extend down just a little bit beyond this. That's just due to the unevenness of the base when it's inserted. So I inserted it and then I just pushed these down until they were flush. So this is what it's looking like. I also went to my 3D printer and printed this little medallion that I'm going to glue on here. I felt like it needed something. And then of course after that I'm going to add with a pen. I'm just going to add some bricks and cracks and things like that. And then I'll get this thing painted up. Okay, all done. I added a couple pieces down here as spacers so that when the phone is inserted, the screen is exactly here. I had the measurements for that, and I forgot to add that in earlier, but yeah, when you slip the phone in, obviously it'll fall through the bottom unless there's something there to stop it. So these are there to stop it. All right, so all that's left now is some texturing with, a marker, distressing it with some aluminum, cutting out some notches here and there, just making it look well worn, especially on the back. I had this painted flat black. I painted it by hand, and I sent a picture of it to my friend and asked him what he thought, told him, it wasn't done yet, but he came back and he told me he wanted it to be a black glossy stone underneath with, gray sponge painting, but he wanted the black. He didn't like the flat black. He wanted it glossy. Okay, I'm not going to argue. Actually, it didn't turn out too bad. I had to go to the hardware store and get a can of glossy black. I don't know if how well the video is going to do justice to this, but it's definitely glossy black. I've never painted glossy black with a sponge. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know if it's going to smear. I think I'm going to have to go very slow on it, by pressing down. But I do like the glossiness of it, but it's a bit too much. So I told him that, I was going to sponge paint it with gray, and hopefully that would tone it down quite a bit. So I think my test is going to be on the back of this. I'm not going to do this whole thing until I see what it looks like, and that way I don't have to paint everything again. If I don't like it, if I don't think it looks good, I'll take a picture and send it to him and see what he says. But given that this is the last night I can work on this, I'm kind of in a time crunch here. So I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse this, and sponge paint this with the gray, and then I'll go around the edges with a lighter gray and see what it looks like. Here it is. I am I'm pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. I really did not know how the glossy black was going to do. The painting, the sponge painting on it turned out really nice. It's not bad. I'm pretty happy. Spin it around here. You can see it from the back. You can see some of the gouges have shown. One thing I did on this side, I gouged out some of the areas here to make it look a little more damaged on this side. But just overall, I like it. Now I'm hoping my friend likes it, and I need to go find an iPhone 6, the one to fit in this shell, so that I can test it and see how it looks. Okay, I have my neighbor's phone in there with a little animation playing. I don't know what my friend is going to be using. It's some sort of electrical thing, but this was the only thing I could find fast. I'm going to tap play, and let's see what it looks like. It's pretty cool. See it again. There we go. Not bad. I hope my friend likes it. Okay, there it is. All done, ready to go. Gonna deliver it to my friend tomorrow, and he'll put his phone in there, and hopefully his players will enjoy it. The glossy black turned out pretty good. It does have a sheen to it, but that's what he wanted. Customer's always right. He'll like it. I actually do. It turned out better than I thought. I wasn't sure about the glossy, but I think it's fine. So there you go. Total time to make, I was tracking, glue, painting, all that good stuff. Total time to make it was a little under 5 hours. Not too bad. I wish, again, as with all these speed builds, I wish I'd have had more time. There would have been a lot more things I probably would have done with it. But I hope you like it, and if you attempt to do something like this, please take a photo, put a link to it in the comments below. I'd love to see your take on it. One final thing, I have not glued this in. I left this as a separate piece. One, it makes it easier to get the phone out. And two, because there's a slot that's got a standard size in there, at a later time he could make something else to slot in here, or I could. If he decides he wants to change the look of the main piece here, we could always come up with something different to fit in there. So I did not glue this in intentionally, but again, if he wants to, he can put some glue on there, stick it in there, and it's not coming out. So hope you like this one. It was fun. And these speed builds are always interesting. I just never know what the final product's going to look like, because I'm sort of making it up as I go. But again, I really did like this one. I'm going to have to learn to start saying no, especially for short time periods. 2 days did not feel like enough, and even though it was, I did it, I still would have liked to have had more time. But anyway, this is DM Jim, and again, thank you for watching Game Terrain Engineering, and I will see you in the next episode.